the Canon EOS M all the way up to the Canon EOS M6 Mark II. Are these cameras worth even considering in the year 2025? Why am I using it today? The question of whether a particular camera is worth it or not, I don't know if that's the right question, because the thing that you need to ask yourself is, what is it that you're trying to do? And can the gear that you have get you there? Now, granted, right, a Lamborghini Murcielago or a Civic that you just got stock but has 100,000 miles on it, they'll both get you from point A to point B. It's just a question of, uh, which one is the one that you have access to. Maybe you have access to both, but then you'll know that there are pros and cons to whichever vehicle that you're going to be using. We can have an open discussion about the Canon M mount system. This here is the original EOS M. And I have here a Rogue cage. It's got Magic Lantern set up and installed. Got a little GoPro screen so I can see top down, because the screen on here does not articulate. And this video itself and almost all of my videos in this setting have been recorded on the Canon EOS M6 Mark II. Now, the question is, do I recommend this camera? To kind of give you an idea, this is the setup that I have. Canon EOS M6 Mark II, V-mount battery that I'm using, 99 watt hour. The HDMI is going into the monitor, and then the monitor is outputting into into OBS. In terms of audio, I have this wildly long Sennheiser shotgun mic to capture my audio. Being it's phantom powered, so I've had to have a phantom power attachment that then feeds the audio signal into the camera into a 3-inch mini. This is the quality of the audio that you get from such a microphone. In fact, in this entire setup, the microphone is probably the most expensive thing, because in terms of the list of priorities that you're going to have is audio first, lights, lenses, then camera. And this entire setup that you're seeing right now is to simply be able to address the limitations of this camera. So one of the things that you'll be noticing is I have a V-mount battery that is mounted to the side of the camera. The camera itself is mounted to a cage, and because the camera is lacking many mounting points, so I've got a cage on there, and I've got a V-mount thing to slide on. I got a battery there to power the camera, because the battery life on the Canon M6 Mark II is not very good. And so at the same time, when I connect the camera via HDMI with a clean HDMI output, I'm not able to record inside the camera. So now I have to record externally. In this case, I'm doing the external recording via OBS onto my computer. Now, the downside is that the HDMI output is limited to simply 30p. And so if I want to get that 24p look, what I'll have to do is I will have to interpret the footage as 24p, and then I will have to increase the speed of the video to 125.1%. and make sure that the audio itself has been extracted and processed separately from the video in order to achieve the particular look that I'm going for. And at the same time, the screen here will turn off while it's set to the supposed recording setting. This camera itself was also damaged. It's got a lot of dead pixels, so whenever I take pictures at 32 megapixels, which is what this is, a 32 megapixel camera, there's a whole bunch of red spots here. But because the way that the image is processed in camera for video, it's not necessarily downsampled, rather it's pixel binned or line skipped or something, so that 32 megapixels, really that 7K footage ends up being 3.5K, and then it's ballooned to 4K output. And so you get essentially a softer, dreamier looking image. But it's further complemented by the native 22 f2mm lens, which is in fact one of my favorite lenses. It's probably the reason why I continue to use this camera, because I like the aesthetic and the look that comes from this lens. And the moment Canon decides that they're going to recreate the same lens for the RF mount, I might strongly consider getting it. but getting a R50V perhaps, I don't know. But until that happens, like I don't like the lenses necessarily that are on the RF mount, and so I haven't even considered it. And most of the our RF mount cameras are not really photo friendly in the same way you have Sony, whether it be a ZV-E1 or in this case an FX30 or even an FX3. I've even put in an order for an FX2, but all of those cameras are for the studio and work related stuff, not necessarily home based streaming kind of scenario. The FX series of cameras and Sony cameras, I feel like are overkill for this kind of setup. The other thing is, I don't know if it's an upside or a downside, the camera is 8-bit. What you see is what you get. And so there's not much more to the image that you can do. And so now the onus is on you so that wherever it is that you're filming, you set it up right so it looks good on camera. So that way, whatever you're capturing now is what it needs to, is what you want it to look like. In my case, and this is just coming from the knowledge of color, contrast, skin tone composition. That basic knowledge that's in here, I've applied it to my space. And what I mean by that is I'm a generally darker skin tone individual. And so as a result, it helps when there's a level of contrast and complementation to a darker skin tone with the colors around me. So brown is not actually a color. Brown is like orange. Brown is a dark orange, essentially. And so one of the things I may want to consider is that how do you contrast brown? Well, if brown is a dark orange, then I may want to have an element of a light orange in my background. And so that's where this Chinese divider with a light inside it, giving me a bright yellowish orange light comes in. And that essentially is a contrast to my skin tone. Now, in the sense of it's still in the same color spectrum, but it's just a different luminosity. So that's one element. Element number two is what are the colors that you will see a combination of with brown in nature. So what is brown in nature that is beautiful? Trees. Personally, I would think other people find trees beautiful. I find trees beautiful. And so the colors that you will find in conjunction with or juxtaposed with brown in nature are green, blue, because of the sky and the leaves. And so, I got some fake plants here. I got a blue shirt on. A lot of my wardrobe is a mixture of, it's either blue or dark blue, and blue and green tend to go really well with a darker complexion. So if you're talking about looking for some wardrobe advice, consider, and if you have darker skin, blue and green tend to do really well with that. The other color that goes well with blue and green is purple. And so that's why the wall that I have here is kind of like a royal type of purple. I forgot what the color is, but purple also goes really well with orange. So blue, green, purple, orange, these four colors go together. And you'll also find these color combinations common in comic books. So like purple and green will many times go together, like the Hulk, the Prowler, Joker. That like you'll find that these colors are in combination. In contrast to that, they'll have blue and red or blue and orange type of scenario. And so Hollywood tends to go with the teal and orange or blue and orange mixture, generally with their stereotypical action movie color tone. So that information in here is kind of like how I've approached the design of and the composition of the space. And lastly, with relation to how I've positioned the camera, it's like I want to give a sense of depth. And so I'm shooting into the corner of the room. And so as a result, it feels like the space itself has a dimensionality to it. And that's further accentuated with lighting, right? Now, there's some elements of the lighting that are in my control, such as like my closet has a light in it, and so it gives me that separation, that soft, subtle separation. Um, Obviously, we've got the lamp over there, and so that lamp kind of gives. There is some, I guess, spillover from there, but it's more so about the hue, and this actually shines even better at night. And then when it comes to illuminating the self, I'm facing a window. It is daytime. It is noon, almost noon. I've had to close the window blinds, and even then, there's light spilling out, coupled with my monitor here. I've got two 32-inch monitors that are further illuminating my face in a subtle and soft manner. And so all of that kind of plays into recognizing that the work has to be put in here in order for me to get the look and aesthetic in the camera, because what I see is what I get. There's not going to be any post-processing, color grading, LUT applying to make it work, because this is an 8-bit camera and I got to give it what I need to give it in order to achieve the look that I want. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have the looks, you can get away with poor planning with a 10-bit, 12-bit, 14-bit camera. In the case EOS M, the original one, you can record 14-bit, 12-bit raw video with the Magic Lantern. Now, what that will allow you is the flexibility to pull and push the colors, but all of the other foundational elements still need to be there. You look at a lot of movies from a professional standpoint, they do a lot of work beforehand to ensure the colors are there, but then they capture that information raw. But the colorist then just has to accentuate that a little bit further. What is the right gear for you? If it's a question of like, what are you unable to do? What are you incapable of doing right now with the gear that you have, that you feel that a potential upgrade will help you get there? Or what aspect of the gear is a bottleneck that, yes, you're able to accomplish it, you're able to get to point B, but you get to point B 3x faster or 10x faster if you got some other gear. And so I can't answer that question for you. That's something that you're going to have to kind of figure out. So one of the things you mentioned is that the M6 Mark II was or is a dream camera, and I would ask you why. Like, what about it is a dream, makes it a dream camera? Not judging, right? It's just a genuine question. What about it is a dream camera? For me, for a while, the FX3 was a dream camera, and part of that came from I don't know, a certain idea of what I would do with the camera. Now, granted, the one of the clients that I'm working with, they're building out a studio, and I'm in charge of building it out. And with that comes gear purchases, and that has given me the opportunity to work with cameras like the FX30, FX3, FX2, which is still on back order, and all the various newer lenses and lights, which I'll be sharing on this channel as time progresses. But like I'm getting to work with it, right? And I guess in a way that is a dream fulfillment, in the sense of like, it wasn't so much about the gear, but it was more about being able to work in a controlled studio environment with a team of people that I enjoy working with. And so working on projects and producing things that are meaningful. And so that's part of the thing that I've dreamt of, that I've prayed for, and it is manifesting in front of me. It wasn't so much about the gear, but it was about what I've been wanting to do. And so part of that is, part of the joy and gratitude is towards realizing that, hey, I am now living that moment, and I'm going through it, where I'm getting to use these cameras. I'm learning things. I'm facing challenges and overcoming them and growing as an individual and as a professional. So the better question is, it's a question of like, it's not so much about the gear. It's a question of what is it that you're trying to do. Right now, one of my dream things that I'll share is 2027 is going to be the year that the world gets to experience the longest solar eclipse in modern recorded history, where a solar eclipse is going to last over 6 minutes. And the path of that solar eclipse in the August of 2027 is going to pass through Spain and Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And in my mind, I'm like, imagine being at the top of the mountains of Granada in southern Spain, or standing on the top of Jebel Nur, which is the mountain of light, which is for Muslims, that was actually the point of the first revelation of the initial verses of the Quran when they came down. So for me, like, how cool would it be for me to stand there with my long lens or telescope? I'm thinking like a Takahashi telescope, which is actually Canon optics, but designed for astro viewing, um, or maybe like some sort of solar special design telescope standing up top the mountain there while the solar eclipse is happening. Like, how cool would that be? And that's like the thing that I'm thinking right now. Um, and so, like, that's a dream that I have. And so it's not so much about the gear, but it's about being in that moment and sharing that moment with specific people that I care about. You may have had a dream of owning a particular camera, and that's wonderful. And I think that motivates us. Question is, focus more on what you want to do and work towards realizing that. And whatever gear helps you get there, you know, that's the thing that you will know was the best thing for you. Hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. I'll see you soon.